Hey everybody, Matt Johnston here with another COVID-19 legal update. Um, this one is for employers and employees. A little bit earlier today, and it actually started a little bit yesterday, I had to advise a client about her decision to lay off her entire staff. And yeah, there were tears. It sucks on many levels, not just economically, not just for my client, but also for the fact that I like these guys. They are fantastic people. It's a great group of folks, and it sucks that this is happening. But unfortunately, it's probably not the last client that I'm going to have to deal with. This is the first client, though, that the layoffs were related to the fact that it was economic in nature rather than being shut down by a government order or as a consequence of government orders to not operate certain kinds of businesses like bars and restaurants and gyms or prohibiting large scale events. So this video is mostly for the employees who are out there, but also for employers. Under most state unemployment statutes, and I would imagine this applies to most states, if somebody is receiving unemployment benefits, they have to be able to work, so physically, mentally able to work, available to work, meaning there's not any sort of restrictions on their ability to go into work immediately and or the next day, and actively seeking work. Now, it's going to be a little hard to be actively seeking work in the current economic environment. It's not going well, and I understand that. But there are some potential exemptions. Now, what I'm about to say applies specifically to Maryland, but there may be other states that have similar laws. If you have a question about that, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask us. We'll try and answer the question as best we can. If you are an employer in another state, I strongly encourage you to reach out either to me or to a qualified employment lawyer in your state. So sometimes there are going to be exemptions to the actively seeking work requirement that exists under unemployment statutes. So in Maryland, there is two levels. One is a 10-week level and one is a 26-week level. So if the layoff is anticipated to be less than 10 weeks, then the employee does not have to be actively seeking work, but the employer has to be prepared to bring everybody back on board within that 10 weeks. Now, usually if you're going to be shutting down your operation for a short period of time, it's a defined period of time, then this 10-week exemption is usually available for employees. The other is a 26-week, which is a 6-month exemption from the actively seeking work. In order to avail themselves of this, both the employer and the employee have to agree to this, have to agree to the layoff if there's a partial or full shutdown of your operation. The second part is that the employer has to guarantee that they would bring everybody back on board at the end of the 26 weeks or before the end of the 26 weeks. And the third is that the secretary, in this case the Secretary of Labor at the state of Maryland level, would have to agree that the work conditions and the economic conditions and the workforce stability would benefit from having this exemption being granted. Now, the standards for granting the exemption in the state of Maryland are normally a little bit in flux, and right now are greatly in flux. So I don't know if the state is going to take a broad scale view and be pretty generous with this kind of an exemption, or if they're going to take a narrow view and be a little more tailored in their approach to which industries or which businesses would be eligible for this 26-week exemption for their employees. So what I do highly encourage that if you are an employer who is facing large-scale layoffs, that you engage with the unemployment office as quickly as possible. Most unemployment offices have what's called a bulk claims situation where if a layoff is happening, the employees can file their claims and the employer can answer those claims in bulk. Normally those claims are answered at least in the state of Maryland, they're answered by a mail, by a mailing that the unemployment office sends out, but the bulk processing is probably being done electronically. If you are a Maryland employer, be mindful. The state of Maryland, Governor Hogan has specifically directed those workers who can telework to do so. So there may be some slowdowns in your processing. I know this is a difficult time for everybody. I know that it is not an easy situation for employers to have to make the decisions to shut down. And I believe that the state of Maryland is going to go out of its way to try and help employers and employees as best as possible. I haven't fully read the story, but I understand that Governor Hogan has applied for emergency aid from the United States Small Business Administration, and that process is ongoing. And I understand that there is, and I've talked about legislation that's on its way. I've also talked about some opportunities that are going to be available for Maryland businesses and for other businesses. So there's going to be some links down below in the description. One of them is going to be to the small business or the business page for coronavirus updates. It's getting updated regularly. I highly recommend people bookmark that. And if you're a Maryland employer, be checking back regularly. In the meantime, I'm going to have some more videos coming today, and we're probably going to continue having these videos as frequently as the need comes up. In the meantime, stay positive, stay safe, wash your hands, practice some social distancing, and I'll speak to everybody later. Bye-bye.